Hey everyone, today we're going to talk about some of the tools I'm using in the greenhouse every single day. Now, to preface this video, these are genuinely things I use every single day. I'm in the greenhouse 5 to 6 days per week working with these plants, and these are things I need to use and I'm looking for on the daily, and these are not things that I'm trying to sell you. In fact, most of them you can probably get on Amazon, but the first thing up are going to be the set of scissors that I use. Starting with the most important ones are, again, something I don't really know where you get them, but they're a set of shears. I think you can get Fiskars or something of the like. These are actually made by Brookstone. We actually found these, I want to say, in one of our cars. But first and foremost, I'm using these to cut big chunks of Monstera. Anything that's really kind of bigger than my finger or really bigger than a leaf. If I'm cutting a stem, I'm probably going to use these, especially if I'm cutting Monstera. If I'm cutting philodendron, I can use the smaller ones. But this is also a multi-tool, so many times I'll go in to take a cutting that's kind of between nodes, and I'll be able to take out this knife part and be able to slice it. You can also use a razor blade for this. And always make sure your tools are sterilized. We'll get to that soon. Next up is a slightly smaller trimming scissor, and I always try and use a new pair or clean them. This is for removing leaves. This is for taking cuttings of syngoniums, philodendron, something slightly smaller. I'm always looking for a clean pair of these. And finally, just kind of like a paper scissor, I prefer a longer scissor when I'm shaping leaves or cleaning any sort of browning I'm having on elbow parts of a leaf. I just find it simpler with a longer blade to kind of go the angle of the leaf to kind of clean up my plants. And speaking of cutting your plants, you always want to do it in a sterile manner. So you want to be cleaning the surface of your tools with either hydrogen peroxide. This is 3% from Ralph's, I believe, just Kroger brand. This is about $2. Or using a diluted bleach concentrate. For soaking any sorts of media or tools or buckets that you're using, you want to use 10% bleach solution. That's what we use here. So that will never go on your plants, but it'll be 10% bleach, and you mix that with 9 parts water. So 1 part this, 9 parts water. And that solution, you'll be able to kind of sterilize everything. And we've talked about how useful this is to have around the garden. You can almost use this directly on your plants. After I cut wounds or if I see any root rot, I'm using this directly on the area and I'm looking for bubbles. I can't believe I almost forgot this. I actually use this probably more than anything in this shop. This is simply a spray bottle, but is the one that works when you're applying a lot of nutrients or neem. I'm always spraying my fuzzy philodendrons for spider mites. These are probably actually the 2 most utilized things in the shop on the weekly. Maybe I use these 4 times a week sometimes. Simply a spray bottle from Home Depot, but this is the one that does not clog at the end. I think it's like $4 or $5. It's made by Zepp. You should probably be able to get it at like any garden center or home improvement store. And it sprays a lot of volume very rapidly. When I'm spraying a few hundred plants, I need that. And I don't need this to clog up with any sort of dirt or debris that gets into my water. And then I'm using 3% concentrated azadirachtin to spray for spider mites. Outside of this, I'm just using BTI in the garden to combat gnats. We're really just always fighting gnats and then spider mites, and back and forth, back and forth. But I can't recommend this spray bottle enough. I've used the Home Depot brand, I've used other brands. If you're applying in a greenhouse or you have more than 50 plants, consider an ugly but industrial size spray bottle, and I use this just for neem. Or if I'm ever trying to increase the humidity of those tents I talked about last week, I'm spraying this directly inside of the tents. A few measurement objects. I use a pipette for very micro measurements, pH up and down. I'm using a syringe to use my part A and B of my LECA fertilizer that grows all of these plants. And here's one that's just an easy one, maybe at the 99-cent store or somewhere online. This is just a squeeze bottle to where you can water plants very directly, and for my smaller baby plants, it's really nice to do very measured small amounts. But what I'm typically watering with are just, I don't even know what to call these, jugs or containers with, this is, I guess, technically some form of graduated cylinder. And I often will measure nutrients with these also. But mostly for watering, to be honest, it's not really pretty, but the reality is I'm just using a Home Depot bucket, scooping out water of it, straight tap water, and watering my plants. To be honest, the bucket is probably the most utilized resource in this greenhouse. I think we have like 12 or 14 buckets, and we're always running out of them because we water with them. We catch runoff with them. We mix aroid mix with them. We'll store perlite in them or coconut coir. You get the point. Buckets are very useful to have in a greenhouse. And this is going to get more specific, but I do use a pH meter and a TDS pen on the weekly to measure my reservoirs, because I have a few 100-gallon reservoirs that are repeatedly flooding these hydroponic plants with a nutrient. So I always want to make sure that nutrient's in the right zone. So I'm pHing my water, and then I'm using a TDS pen to make sure there's enough plant food in that water. And of course, I'm using a part A nutrient and a part B nutrient with a pH down. As I said, I'm watering these hydroponic plants with that A, B, and some pH down. And then for all my kind of non-albos that are in the aroid mixes, I am using plain water with root boost. So this is one of our products we actually make here, but essentially it is kelp, humic acids, vitamin B1, a few other things to pH correct it, and some hormones to generate more roots. This is a product that I just add directly to the water, and I'll typically pair it with a slow release fertilizer like this Osmocote. This is simply a pelletized version of fertilizer that I use in our aroid mix once they have roots. And then, as I said, I use that root boost to kind of add in all those micros and those minerals, really those hormones and vitamins, to start producing a lot more roots before the plant starts producing foliage. So I think that covers it. Thanks you guys so much for watching this week's video. If you did enjoy the video or learn something new about how to manage your greenhouse or space at home with plants, please click the like button down below. It does help us out. And if you want to help us get to 5,000 subscribers, that would be awesome. Please click the subscribe button down below. We'll see you next Saturday for another houseplant video. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next week.